Hello everyone and welcome to our January series of ThinkTree webinars. Today we're very lucky in that we have got Peter Smith and Angela Lewis. Okay, so often we tend to think that when we get older and we see people walking around all bent over, that it's almost inevitable, it's before I'm old. And there's this big question, can we reclaim our childhood flexibility? Peter and Angela passionately believe that there is so much that we can do in a very gentle way to actually help clients, but actually also as much to help ourselves as therapists, so we have longer and, I would say, happier careers. Hi Peter, hi Angela.
Hi there.
Hello.
Okay, little word about ThinkTree. If you've watched us before, you'll know that we think we're a bit more than a professional association for therapists. We're international. We're very much about providing really more benefits than and incentives than perhaps elsewhere available. We're very much into supporting trainers as well and thinking about cutting edge therapies, new therapies, moving forward and really integrating very much between the medical sector and the non-medical sector. Everybody who is interested in well-being, we're interested in them because we think we all work together as one great team, and that is the best for the world. Anyway, a little bit about Peter and Angela. So Peter is a registered homeopath. He's also a light touch therapist and Jin Shin Jutsu, which he's going to have to explain to you, not me. He's been going from about 1982 and very holistic in approach. His passion, his absolute passion at the moment, is to bring what he calls gentle muscle release to a wide audience. I think quite often new therapies might sometimes have quite a complex name, and then you go, what on earth is that about? But kind of what it does what it says on the tin, gentle muscle release. He is passionate about getting it to a wider audience, which is why he's here today, which is why he's working with Angela. And he thinks for anybody who is doing massage, trained in massage, it'll take you into a more creative and effective territory, and he wants GMR to really reach millions of clients around the world and prolong the careers of multitudes of therapists. GMR, he says, is the way for the next step, the iteration of massage therapy to become more gentle and to become more effective. Now, Angela I've known for quite a few years now, haven't I, Angela?
Yes, you have.
And I did not know you were a Wren. I did not know that.
I kept that very quiet.
You most certainly did. I mean, airframe engineer.
Yes. So I'm using my hands in a different way nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. And Angela, apart from that beginning that I didn't know about, is a qualified lecturer. 17 years she's been teaching anatomy, physiology, pathology, various kinds of complementary therapies and sports massage, and that's kind of one of the things we're going to come on today, particularly with people who work in sports massage or have received sports massage. I think, Angela, is that right?
Yes.
And both of them are really based in the southwest of England. Angela is a very keen sporty person. She's sitting there. And got hockey, squash, swimming, cricket, rugby. It's amazing. I didn't know that either.
Yes. Well, over the years, when the boys, my three boys were small, they were all participating in sport, so I tended to get involved rather than just standing on the sideline. Actually, after just going into doing sports massage was that was really helpful for them as they grew up and they got sporting injuries, so it seemed a logical conclusion.
And I think I understand you actually really learned gentle muscle release a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Passed it, practice, what you gained from it was your muscles felt longer, lighter, and your movement was more fluid. And what's more, the trauma that was stored in muscles, that we all know gets stored in muscles.
Yes.
Anyone who works on muscles knows that's what happens. Are now released, and you've come together to work in order to help this vision go out. Yeah. Okay. For those watching us live now, somewhere on wherever your menu bar is, you'll see a Q&A button. Now, if you've got questions that come up, we'd love you just to pop them in the Q&A button. You'll find it near the chat button. If you've got a question, just do it as we go along and we'll get them answered at the end. Do make sure your device is charged and plugged in, and you might find a headset helps audio wise. And also at the end of the webinar, we have a poll. If you can fill it out, I'll launch it, and if you can give us some feedback. Obviously, I do always say I've got my own water. I always have water here with me. You'll see me swigging it. I've already seen, yeah, Peter and Angela swigging it. Maybe a pen and paper if you want to take any notes. And of course, keep an open mind, because some of what you hear or discuss might be new to you. And that's really how we learn best. So, we are back. Hi, Peter. Hi, Angela. And really have a nice, I know you've got some nice videos for us as well, but I think today it would be absolutely fantastic, Peter, if you could start by just really explaining what you mean by gentle muscle release, so everybody's on the same page.
Okay. Before we start,
Yeah.
But both of us are completely relaxed, because you're the first ones to screw up at Thinktree. You've got Peter Lewis and Angela Smith.
Why did I say that? I told you. You know,
it's on the front slide. I'm Peter Smith. This is Angela Lewis. Anyway, welcome to the talk. So let's just all relax. This is what we needed. I bet you did it on purpose. Now, gentle muscle release, as has been said already, it does what it says on the tin. We got to change our whole paradigm of how we work. Okay, most of us doing massage are doing something to the client. We're getting rid of that tension in the muscles. We're putting a lot of effort into it, wrecking our fingers, thumbs, hands, shoulders, and that sort of thing. And it's totally unnecessary. And frankly, it's very uncomfortable. I'm a wussy, and I don't like. If I'm in pain, the last thing I need is more pain, because that just reinforces. Instead of, I know about the endorphin release thing, yeah, that's okay, but I'd rather have the endorphin release just by the sheer pleasure of it not hurting anymore. But essentially what we do is, well, we don't do anything. You will see how this works in a minute, but we are purely facilitating the client to through the use of their own brain and deliberate movement, to release their own muscles. So if you're an 8-stone masseur, you know, and you've got a 24-stone rugby player comes in with really tight shoulders, you can release all those shoulder muscles before you even put him on the bed. And then you can give him a proper massage. There is a law of dynamics, I think. Each action has an equal and opposite reaction. So you put stress out into someone's body to try and release, and you get it's like you take the stress on yourself. And you know, it's such a shame. 2016, before I suddenly decided to do the Gentle Muscle Release Academy, and do look at our website afterwards, I was shocked to hear the statistics that Jerry Pies from No Hands Massage came up with, that 78% of you therapists are going to damage yourself. If not terminally, then you're going to lose 3-6 months, a year out of business and not able to work at all. And I went to the podiatrist this morning and I showed her how this worked, helped to release her hands. And she was telling me about a colleague of hers in podiatry who her thumbs are so damaged, she can't actually use the clippers anymore. So she's had to go off and do something related to podiatry, but she's broken-hearted. She can't treat people anymore. So there's another market suddenly come out. And reflexologists, you mentioned yourself, Rosemary, this morning. How many reflexologists got knackered thumbs and things like that? And what else? Sports therapists. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's any of us. I like to call us all body workers. We're all working on the body in different ways. And there's a lot of damaged practitioners and wounded practitioners out there who are limping along, having to pay the bills or the mortgage and stuff like that, having to do work, and they're suffering badly. And I think that it's totally unnecessary. It's unnecessary. And my dream is, if you look at our mission statement on the Gentle Muscle Release website, you'll see on the home button, there's a mission statement. It's all in there. Everything I'm talking about is in there. So I'm not going to repeat it all. You can go and have a look at this afterwards. But essentially, my dream is that once people have been shown the techniques of how to do the different massages and stuff, before they start damaging themselves, we teach them as part of the curriculum in all the different teaching colleges and things, how they can work without damaging themselves, so they can look at 40, 50 years of work ahead of them and really enjoying it and loving it. Because I think, you know, I've said before, it's very routine, this massage. Someone comes in and you do this routine, okay, and it gets a bit boring after a while. You know, homeopathy, I get a bit bored with piles or ingrown toenails and stuff like that. It gets a bit tedious after a while, you know. But if I'm, see, with the Gentle Muscle Release, when a new client comes in, everybody's different. So they've all got different problems, and I have to apply my intelligence and my experience as to what's the best way to deal with this person. And I may need, if they're in a real state, I might need to do some Jin Shin Jitsu on them for 5-10 minutes just to bring them back into their bodies. Or I teach people a very simple technique of interlocking the fingers. I don't know if you can see that, but you basically interlock your fingers like this and make a circuit between the thumb and finger on each hand, and just doing that, it helps to calm people down and relax and brings them back into their bodies. So we're not just working with these are techniques. You've got to think as a holistic practitioner, really. If that makes sense. But I'm able to teach, or we're able to teach people how to release people's necks and tension in the neck without any force, without any effort, without any pain, without putting extra trauma into the body, to release the muscles. And people get up and suddenly they've got the movement of their neck again.
And we're also not damaging ourselves.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
That is so important, because you can still be doing what seems to be quite gentle work, but in fact you may still be causing damage to yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about, you know, how we get into these kind of guarded positions with, you know, muscle memory and what we're working, if you like, to undo.
Absolutely. Well, I mean,
do you want to get the
yes.
slide?
Let me open my thing. I'll do the best I can with this. Hang on a second. Play from the start. There you are. There's our Gentle Muscle Release Academy. You'll get the link at the end of the talk.
You need to press share, Peter.
Pardon? Oh, Bessie Brown, there you are. I've got to escape now. Oh, hang on, share. There we are. Here we go. So back into here again. Play from the start. Thank you. Right, that's 15 all now, Rosemary, okay? Right, here we go. Now, why is this window in the way? How do I get rid of this window? Your windows. I press share. Here we go. So let's go back a minute. So that's what our website looks like at the front. Now, this is what we're going to talk about today. We've put it into a basic little mind map. We've got GMR in the middle, and I'm starting to explain it to you now. And we drop down to where it says muscle memory. Every injury, the body remembers an injury and it stores it. So if I fall over and I bend my thumb back, you can see my thumb here. If I bend it back too far, it stretches it, so it then goes into a guard again. It won't let it go as far as it did before. It'll start to guard it. It'll start to recruit and defend itself by recruiting other muscles to protect the damaged muscle. And then you end up with what we call body armor, which is it's quite a common phrase. People understand that. But you've only got to look. I always remember somebody showing me a marathon runner starting off at the beginning of the race, and how they're limping over using muscles in all sorts of uncoordinated ways, because they've exhausted their muscles, tons of lactic acid and stuff in it. And that's what we do. That's 3 hours later from start to finish, you're an old person all of a sudden. So with the GMR, where actually if you drop up to the next button where it says peeling back the layers or events of injury, I can show you with Angela's hand. Can you just hold your hand up, Angela? Just hold your arm out there. If Angela has damaged this hand, it will only go to is that better?
Yeah.
Go to the limit there. With GMR, I'll ask Angela to push gently, so push against me. So her brain is switched on. She's engaged her muscle at her limit. If you notice, she didn't push past me. So she's right where she was at the beginning. So the logic of the thing is, I'm at my limit, but the muscle's engaged. So the logic of that is, if the muscle's engaged, you must be able to release it. So release it, Angela. It goes back to there, to the next limit, okay? So you can see there's a spring there. Push forward again, hold it, and then release it again. I would just say, thank you. I would just say, we don't leap in and start working on a difficult area straight away. We actually run through a process, because I'll use the analogy of the boat. I'm glad I nearly forgot about this one. Imagine a boat, the hull of a boat. That's the pelvis. Coming up to the middle of the boat is the spine or the mast. You've got all the rigging coming down the side. On top of the mast, there's a pumpkin, and that's held in place by different muscles and stuff. And coming off underneath the ship are the legs and the arms, obviously coming out the side. But if they all get contracted, that's when you start to lose your mobility. And how you've only got to look at children in the swimming pool as well, haven't you? You'll see they've already been damaged, and when they were born even, maybe we'll come to that in a minute. But it's about taking people back and regaining their flexibility. I had an ice skating accident when I was about 22. I crashed down onto the ice. I'll tell you a funny bit about that in a minute. I hit my head on the ground, 13 stitches, blood everywhere. It was like a Sam Peckinpah movie. And for 14 years after that, I could not lift my arm above the level. So bang went my squash, my tennis, and everything else. Just went out the window. I couldn't do it. I couldn't lift my arm. So it was sort of semi-frozen. When I began training in light touch therapies, somebody said, "Have you got a funny shoulder? Anyone here with a funny shoulder?" Yes, me. I can only go to there. A big beam came on the woman's face, and she walked over to me and said, she lifted my arm, say stop, stop. That's the first time the muscle memory kicked in. She said, "Now gently push down." So I did what I just done with Andrew. I pushed down to the floor. And after about 5-6 seconds, she said, "Now release." And it floated up to there. And then, came in again. Stop. I had to say stop. Push down again. The same thing happened, went to there, and then it went to there. So suddenly, after 14 years and 30 seconds later, I could move my shoulder again. So that kind of got my attention. I thought, this is rather good. I want to know more about this. So this is what GMI, it has tremendous potential for instantaneous results, even on chronic problems. And we're both finding this when we work with other people.
Do you want to go to the next slide?
Yes, let's go to the next slide. Good idea. If I hit the mouse there, I couldn't find the mouse. There we are. Okay, so we'll give you an example, but I do want to make the point that we don't go straight in. Someone comes in, I've got a bad shoulder. We don't start there. We start at the toes. We work up the legs. We relax the legs. We start to take the pressure off the low back. Then we start to go up through the abdomen. We release the diaphragm. We release the ribs. Then we do the shoulders. And then we get to the neck. So the first day when you train, you'll be basically shown all the releases to get you from toe to head, including the neck. And sometimes we can't get the neck in the first day, because by the end of the first day, you're starting to get tired. And one thing I don't want is people working on necks if their concentration is starting to go a bit wobbly. So often, we will leave that to the first part of the next day. And we'll talk about the structure of the teaching in a minute. But this is just giving you an example. I've just done this with Angela with the principle of how it works. We'll just get another example of it here. My internet connection's unstable, I warn you all. Just to repeat this, it's very important that you get this into your heads. I'll let you read that yourselves. In fact, I will read it aloud in case people are not readers. Our job as a therapist is simply to show people how to use their own brain to release their own muscles with GMR. And there's the website address for the first and not last time. So let's go on to the next one. So we touched on muscle memory already. Peeling back the layers is what we're going to show you now. So releasing one of the major muscle groups in the shoulder. Come on, there we are. Here's the first little mini video. Here we go.
I'm going to show you very quickly
Volume.
how, using GMR, we're going to release one of the particular muscle groups in the shoulder, which allows the elbow to rise and rise and rise.
Excuse me a second. I'm going to go out of this for a moment. I'm going to escape. Turn my volume right up. You might want to turn your volume up. This video, I under-recorded the volume, so sorry about that. Now, where am I going? Back into here again. Hang on. Play.
I'm going to show you very quickly how, using GMR, we're going to release one of the particular muscle groups in the shoulder, which allows the elbow to rise and rise and rise and rise.
Do excuse me. We're going to have to technical glitch here.
Technical glitches.
It makes that reason.
It makes it normal, doesn't it?
So you would need to go into the actual PowerPoint presentation
Yeah,
again.
there we are. Thank you. And we're going to press it here now. Here we go.
I'm going to show you very quickly how, using GMR, we're going to release one of the particular muscle groups in the shoulder, which allows the elbow to rise and rise and rise and rise.
Next one down. Here we go. No, it's not working.
You have to click the arrow, don't you? Is it?
No.
Did you go back
we're
into?
not back into the main screen here.
Go on that one then.
No. So my wife's kindly stepped in to be the client here, and pay attention to the Chinese thing here. Screen. Thank you, Chinese screen. Because you'll notice as her elbow rises in the air, you'll see the improvement from movement to movement. So let's go here. This is quite a short one.
Gabby, I'm going to gently raise your elbow up.
Oh, I'm having trouble with the volume here, boys and girls. Hang on.
Hold it there.
Oh.
Now I want you to take a deep breath in, and on the out breath, gently push down with the tip of your elbow to the floor. So breathe out and push down. 2, 3, 4, 5, and let it come up in the air a bit more if you reach your next limit. Stop. Deep breath in. On the out breath, push down again. Hold it there. And now release, let it come up. Stop. Deep breath in. Breathe out.
So you see the client's in control.
And let it come up again. Stop. Deep breath in. Breathe out and push down. Let it come up. Stop. Last one. Deep breath in. Breathe out and push down. And let it come up. That's good. Thank you very much.
So you can see the range of movements dramatically increased from where she started off. Don't be surprised that you don't get with everybody. If you've got other muscles which are tighter than the one you're trying to release, they're not going to surrender. Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously we will show you throughout the course of how to actually release that if you go to slideshow.
Thank you very much. God,
So, and from
the start, we'll just drop down here very quickly, as quick as we do. So we're in the right order. We've done that, we've done there, we've done there, beating the layers, releasing the muscle group. Here we are, introduction, and we've done this one. Now we're back in the flow. Okay.
next one. Yeah.
There we are. Now, okay, we're going to move to the next bubble up where it says premature aging. Oh no.
You clicked one on.
I clicked one on. Oh, what am I like? This is hopeless. This is disastrous. I'm going to be a laughing stock.
Nerves.
Premature aging, yeah. So if you think about this, it's obvious. If a muscle is tight, it doesn't get the oxygen it needs. It can't get rid of the toxins through the lymphatics and stuff like that. And so the cells are going to struggle, and they're not going to be as happy cells as they should be if the blood flow is as it should be. Now, if we talk just in terms of premature aging, for everybody, but especially the elderly. If they're very tight, the neck's very tight, the blood flow is limited to the brain. We all know what that leads to, Alzheimer's and that sort of stuff. It's most important that you keep the blood flow everywhere in the body, but especially the brain. It's very important to do that. And obvious things, we've all got this stuff, H2O. Drink enough for your body weight. If you're a 10-stone person, you need 70 fluid ounces, which is 2 litres, rough gauge there. If anybody wants a water chart, just let me know and email us after the course, and we'll send you one of those. Diet's obviously important, and mindset for aging, because people think, well, I'm 70 now, I'm bound to get old, you know, and that's totally nuts.
It's only a number.
It's a number. Thank you. So if you've got any questions on any of these topics, be typing them into Rosemary. Are any coming through yet, Rosemary?
Not for that. I actually was just going to ask Angela, in terms of blood flow and premature aging, how does that relate to ability to breathe correctly?
Well, yeah, obviously that will restrict your breath, but it's mainly the tight muscles. And the tight muscles restrict you. We're allowing your lungs to inflate correctly. And you might shallow breathe as well. Whereas we have, through the technique, we can show you how to release the diaphragm and release up the chest muscles. So again, very easy way of doing it. And that will then allow correct blood flow through the body, allows all the oxygen that you need. And
presumably, actually, when you're allowing blood flow through your body, you're actually breathing more correctly. That's going to affect your mental well-being as well, simply because you're not shallow breathing so much, and therefore you've got a completely different set of hormones active.
Yeah, and also because this is all about winter wellness as well, this can help with the bronchitis, with any coughs, with any asthmatics as well.
Interesting.
So we can help with asthmatic, or even just the common cold, because whenever we get something like this, we all get tight like here, and just restricting here the movement within your chest. So, you know, doing this technique can actually help release all of that and help you feel much better.
Yeah, even people who don't think they've got breathing problems are just gobsmacked by, well, as soon as we get the diaphragm moving, and then we release all the intercostal muscles for one in the ribs. It's like they laugh when we release it. There's just such a surprise. And the reason for this is, this was explained to us when I trained, when the baby is born, as it comes down the birth canal, it gets compressed, all the ribs get compressed, the head gets compressed, and when they come out, and it's the same sort of release that we feel when the ribs and the diaphragm releases. Oh boy, there's so much more room in there. I can breathe properly now. And it's staggering what it does for asthmatics, because guess what? You can teach them how to release their own diaphragms. So really important. Thanks.
And I presume that's probably the same for people after major trauma, because if in response to major trauma, also muscle, almost the rib cage contracts in order to protect the organs inside, and it doesn't necessarily release afterwards, does it?
No, definitely not. The road and slammed against a seatbelt and whiplashes, and we could spend an hour talking about whiplash. And but again, you can release whiplash well, because we're going to teach you all how to release each of the muscle groups, muscle by muscle, and by joint, really, in the neck. And it's so simple. And it's the sort of stuff I wish more people like chiropractors and the more yang therapists would learn how to do, because I worked on a neck yesterday, and he's had heavy chiropractic in the past. He's also now gets very good gentle chiropractic, which is totally different. But you try and treat someone who's been crunched and clicked a lot, they're so defended. They're so, what are you going to do when they're expecting you to do that, and it doesn't happen. It's oh, that's better. Oh, thank you. I can turn my head again. It's very, very. It's actually wonderful to do it for people because it's just such a buzz, and they've had the problem for 5 years, 5 months, 5 weeks, or whatever, and they can come in the door and they leave without it. They leave it behind, and it's really. I think it's very uplifting for us as practitioners to get these sort of walk on water moments, really, because people remember it for their whole life. Next time they hurt themselves, they're back on the door. I've just done this. I've got a lady who regularly falls off her horse. I'll come off the horse again, she says, and we sort her out and send her off again. But it's the treatment. People often ask, how long does a treatment last for? Well, that's a good one, isn't it? Because unless you hurt it again, if you undo a jar that's too tight, you hurt a muscle again, it's going to hurt again. But you can learn how to release it yourself if possible. But if you've had a nice released hand, you can hurt it again, then you can release it again. So it doesn't become a permanent thing, it doesn't become a permanent state anymore. People start to get that idea.
No, it's not. Nothing's a life sentence, is it?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Just because you've been told you have to live with it, ain't necessarily so. I would mention that to homeopathy, anything. It's not necessarily so. Keep your mind open.
But doing the GMR, we're actually educating our clients. So we're empowering them to be able to take control of their life and their lifestyle and having themselves, by making themselves well.
You choose to fall off a horse once a week, that's their choice.
Well,
absolutely, yeah. Get a better horse or learn how to ride better. But again, you see, horse riders, I show them this technique I showed you with interlocked fingers. We call it the energy lock. It's a 5,000-year-old yoga mudra. And it just brings you back into your body. It brings your center below the belly button where it belongs, brings your heart center in where it belongs, and it brings your higher self where it belongs. So you're actually bringing heaven to earth. You're bringing your major consciousness to run this ship. When you freak out, guess what happens? Woof. Everything's going out of the head. You've got this argument between the rational and emotional sides of the brain, the fight between who's in charge, worrying about the future or going back into the past. You fall off your bike. Riding the Cosmic Unicycle is a book that's coming up. That's another of my little projects.
Slide.
Next slide. Shut up.
Bring you back into the...
Thank you. Yeah. Now, this sounds a bit funny, kids prematurely aging, but as we mentioned before, kids in the supermarket, kids in the swimming pool, you can just see their postures. Bless them. They're already stressed and they're holding all sorts of stuff in their body.
Lifestyles have changed as well. They probably do a lot more sitting around. They actually carry really heavy rucksacks these days with a lot of books in, and that is, an area of concern for parents, I would think, because their backs are just going to be not good. And also, the chairs that they have to sit on in schools aren't particularly ergonomically good for them. So again, posture suffers. So when your posture suffers, then you lose the flexibility. And of course, there's a lot more stress around these days as well, through various mediums. But stress will affect your posture as well. So, moving on to Osgood Slatters, that's quite a common occurrence in children nowadays because they grow so fast. And obviously the muscles are trying to keep up with the bones as they're growing. And doing the gentle muscle release can actually aid the pain that you can suffer from Osgood Slatters. So it can help with children while they're growing, with that growing spurt.
As you were saying to me today, your boys suffered.
Yeah, my boys suffered.
Yeah.
Two of the boys suffered with that. So, yeah.
Well, I years ago, a friend of a family, they lived in Birmingham. They came all the way, drove down with their grandson all the way to Truro, where I live, and he had a very bad case of Osgood Slatters. Unfortunately, my clinic was on the 3rd story, and it took him about 10 minutes to climb up the stairs because it was so painful to do it. And I think after about an hour and a half of working with him, and the whole body, but especially obviously the legs and the knees and things, he just couldn't believe it. Just went. All his pain went. So I sent him to run up and down stairs a few times, and he was able to run up and down the stairs. And he was delighted. His grandparents were delighted, and there was nobody more delighted than me, because it's so lovely when something like that happens. It can totally change a child's life.
Okay, next slide.
Yeah, well, we could also mention the birth trauma.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if people have had ventouse births and things like that, or particularly awkward back to front births or something, they're going to come out into the world with a lot of stress and stuff like that. Now, this is a good opportunity to say that sort of stuff is not for GMR, because we can't interact with the child. So this is where craniosacral therapy and cranial osteopathy and things like that are an absolute must. If you have a child who's been born funny, you get colic and all sorts of stuff going on. Get that sorted out quickly, and then they're more likely to stay fit and healthy and for the rest of their lives, really. But they can lose flexibility at any age, really.
You're right, particularly now. It's almost not so much, I think, the sectors, Angela, is it's just the sheer amount of sitting.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, when we were young, this makes us sound like right old. But, you know, we
didn't.
We didn't sit down, maybe a bit to watch the telly, maybe a bit, you know, to read books, but otherwise we were out running, cycling, climbing trees, that kind of thing.
So it didn't carry rucksacks that they carry nowadays.
No, that's right. I mean, and I mean, obviously, you know, we're not in the time of the 19th century when kids were crawling around in the middle of machines and getting all kinds of awful habitual postures. We were very lucky, but now it's damaged through lack of movement.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's happened to me. So I think we better, looking at the time, I think we ought to go on to the last section, which is the hands. And you'll see there's quite a few things surrounding that. But if I think what we'll do is we'll come back to this slide if we need to, because we want to talk about how useful it is for arthritic fingers, for musicians, for people who knit, for darts players, and this is winter wellness, circulation in winter. My podiatrist this morning, her hands got warmer just from showing how to release the muscles. But it's old people, adults, and kids, of course, as well. But let's have a look at the next slide. And right, so this is something we'll probably put on our website anyway. It was too quick for you, wasn't it? You read that? Please remember these releases are achieved gently without any pain or pressure, and the therapist is not doing anything to them being the clients. Okay, I've repeated the slide again just so it gets stuck into your heads. Right, here we go. Now this is a great one because this shows you the potential of GMR very, very quickly. So here we go.
Okay. Part of the today is wellness and stuff. We're talking about circulation in the hands and how to improve the circulation in the hands by releasing all the muscles in the hands. Okay. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to just show you a before and after. This is the before. Right, so the black is the before, and as we work, we're going to do a dotted red line, so you'll see afterwards how things look. Now, spread her out comfortably as wide as she can. Now I'm going to block here with my thumb, and I'm going to block here with the other thumb. And Gavi's job is to bring the thumb towards the index finger. So push the two together gently, gently, gently. And now relax the thumb. Now the thumb goes out to there. And do it again, please. Push again. and relax it again. Okay, so it goes through there. So it's a nice release. Now don't move anything. I'm going to quickly do the dotted red line now. Try not to draw on your thumb, which I'm quite good at doing. Okay, so that's release the tension between the thumb and the index finger. Now, we're going to keep this finger solid. Now, don't move that finger at all, but your job is to try to bring your index finger and your middle finger together. So I'm going to block with my thumb, so bring the two together. Wait for about 5 seconds. Now release and let this index finger go out. Now, don't move the thumb. Push it in again, push it in again, and release it and let go. Okay, well done. So we'll do the dotted red line here. Now the middle finger's not moving. Forget that one. So we're now going to work with this finger and this finger, the ring finger and the middle finger. So bring the two together. And relax, nice. And again, push them together. And relax again. Good. Okay. Now we're not forcing it. It's all very, very gentle stuff. This. No great force, no pain at all. Remember, this is gentle muscle release. It's painless. Now bring the little finger and the index finger together. Keep that one there. Bring the two together. Try to bring them in like that. Push these two together. Push against my fingers. That's it. And let go and relax. Now the little finger goes out a bit more. Don't move the little thumb. That's good. Push in again. Let it go out again and relax. That's it. Now hold on. Okay. Now when you bring them back, I'll have you take your hand away in a moment. You're going to make sure that this one is the fixed point and this is the fixed point. So take your hand away. Now you can see where the red lines are, the increasing flexibility of the hand. Okay. Now put your hand back, Gabby, please. Forget what's under here at the moment. What we're going to do now is show you there's other muscle groups involved in the fingers. So I'm going to push these two fingers together like that. Push the fingers apart now, Gabby. And relax gently. Then we do it underneath. Push the fingers apart again and relax again. And each time she does this, the muscles in between the bones here are releasing as well. So push these two fingers apart, push them outwards, and let go. Good. And again. And let go. Relax. And push them outwards again. And let go again. Relax. Now do these fingers. Push them apart again. And relax, and put them over the top, and push them apart again, and relax. Okay. So we've released the fingers in all, because there are always opposing muscle groups. So put this one back on the middle, put the thumb back where it was, little finger there. Now bring the little finger and the thumb together across the tree, and relax. So actually, you see, you get an even better release. Don't move. So there's your final position. Okay. Move your hand away, please, Gary. Okay. So you even gain a little bit of what we did before. So the last one I'll show you this is you're going to bring your thumb and your little finger together. First of all, relax and push the two together, bring them together, and release and relax. See the fingers are releasing easily. Push up and push down again, and then go gently. Trying to get better. Now you're going to do the opposite. Spread your fingers apart. So push them apart and release and relax it. Turn your hand over. Gently close your fingers. Now you see the fingers are not awfully flat. Try and open the fingers. Push them outwards and relax and release. You see the fingers come closer into the palm. Push out again and relax. There you go. Okay. Now how does that hand feel compared to the other one? So more relaxed, yeah. So this is wonderful for especially elderly people who, especially ladies who knit a lot. They come complaining, my thumbs are so tight, and by the time we've done this, the pain's gone. They just don't have any pain and they can knit again. So they teach their husbands how to do this for them. It's just a great tool, this, but many people, when we finish with this, if they put the two palms of their hands together like that, they'll feel this one's much warmer than this one because the circulation is better because all the muscles are being released in this hand where they haven't in this hand.
So that was my kind wife again stood in as the client here, and that's I joined the dotted lines up at the end just so you can see what's happened. But if you're a pianist, wonderful, you've got a much greater spread on your hands. If you're a guitarist or a violin, anything that uses the fingers, you can suddenly have a lot more flexibility in your hands, especially if you've got a concert coming up and you're all tense and something. This is great. And you can ask anybody to do this for you, just give them instructions. So.
Were you saying to me that there might be an issue with darts players though? was that serious?
No, I was being very serious about this. I mean, I'm serious with my tongue in my cheek here. If you have an international darts player comes there, I hear you're very good at releasing tension in my arms and shoulders. You have to get him to sign a disclaimer before you work with, because he's very tight. A dart player has hold all their muscles so they can drop that dart straight into the bullseye or straight in between. Now, guess what's going to happen when you totally reform their muscle memory? They can barely hit the blooming board.
Yeah, the wrist or the handle.
Everything's gone to hell, so they have to then retrain themselves again. So I'm doing a tongue in cheek. I've never been consulted by a dart player, but I'm just giving that as a bit of a funny, really. But I mean, for golfers, I mean, I haven't mentioned this to you, but yeah, I think your husband plays golf, doesn't he, Rosemary?
Oh no, tennis.
Yeah.
Tennis.
I beg your pardon, tennis, yeah. But a golfer, I always say to a golfer, next time you come along, bring a 5-iron with you, and I take them into their swing, so they go back on their swing, and I hold the club. I say, now swing as if you're going to hit the ball, so they swing forward like that. I say, now relax, and suddenly they can go farther, and then they go farther. So increasing the range of swing, which is going to increase their power, the length, and then of course you have to go through the swing and take it back out the other way, and hold the club there, and they pull back as if they're pulling the club backwards, and then they can go farther still. So you're increasing the whole swing.
These are advanced techniques.
They are advanced techniques, yes. Keep quiet about them.
The interesting thing is not just for people who have
Sorry, my cat is being a nuisance.
a particular issue, but also, you know, for people who are serious athletes, they could again prolong their careers, I'm presuming.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, as I said, this is good. I was going to use the expression standing on the shoulders of giants. You've probably all heard that one. But, you know, we must sort of pay respect to people who have pioneered these treatments all the way through. In particular, when I began my practice, I started with spinal touch, which is a great technique, and there are great spinal touch practitioners out there, but it didn't ring my bells. Then I did something which has totally disappeared off the planet as far as I can hear, something called orthobionomy, and that's where the lady did the release on my shoulder. But the third one I came across was something called hypertonics, which was developed by a chap called Frank Mahoney in California.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a kinesiologist. And if you don't know kinesiology, it's kind of hard to start from scratch and learn how to be a kinesiologist if you're a masseur, so that you can actually be effective in sorting people's muscles out. Because I used to have to keep looking the book, how do I do this? Which point do I have to, blah, blah, blah. And I found eventually, I'm quite an intuitive practitioner anyway, so I tend to work gently through the system and deal with things as they come up, so that we work through the whole body from head to toe. And I always insist on finishing a treatment, even if it runs into 2 hours, if they're paying me for an hour and a half, because it's so important to work your way through the whole body. Otherwise, you're sending them away with a low back that's still tight. So the body's going to readapt and put the old patterns on. So it's very important to take it through the whole thing. It's not being a routinist, but it's a question of being thorough, so that you're actually doing as much as you can in the first session to get them as comfortable as you can. So I don't care about how long it takes. It's a question of getting a good result, because you're never going to get, you can't do everything in one session. It's impossible. There's so many layers. We talked about layering and stuff before, you know, peeling the layers off. It's injury upon injury and compounded. An injury gets compounded by a different injury. And this isn't the cure-all. It's not the, you know, the holy grail of everything, but it's just such a useful tool for any body worker to use, whether you're a masseur or a sports therapist or a chiropractor could do well if someone's got a very osteoporotic neck and you can't work with them with a normal manipulation. By using this technique, you can achieve results that you didn't think you could achieve. And
that's a very interesting point, Peter, because there's a whole class of clients who think they can't be clients because they have osteoporosis. And what you're saying is actually that client group can open up and actually get relief. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. Well, get release as well. Yeah, you're quite right. I mean, you probably all have seen clients like this, but I remember one dear old lady, she's not with us anymore, but she was so bent over that her ribs were resting on her pelvis.
Oh.
It was just the poor old soul. But even with her, we were able to, I think we got about that much improvement, 3 or 4 inches improvement. So she wasn't bent over that way. But older, more elderly people, it's quite hard work for them. So, you know, you've got to go at it slowly and gently. But she felt so much better, so much better.
And then her breathing's going to be better, then her whole health's going to be better.
Of course.
You know, it's kind of, so let's just think about some general questions now. You've mentioned body workers. Who would actually have to, what would you, if you wanted to add GMR to your treatment list, what do you need to be qualified?
Well, I need qualified, insured practitioners with hopefully a bit of experience under their belt, but in a way they can be brand new, fresh onto the streets. They'll be really open and embrace this without years and years of hurting themselves. So it doesn't really matter, but they have to be insured. They have to be trained. We know they've done their anatomy and physiology and things like that. You can do that through ThinkTree. If you haven't got AMP, you can do courses through ThinkTree for that, which is what I love about this organisation. It's so flexible. It's so flexible. It's great. And I must say a quick advert for ThinkTree. I was quite trepidatious, and Angela will know. I've been dragging my heels to get this, to bring this to the world. But as soon as I got involved with ThinkTree, they just made it so simple, so that I felt so supported, and they have, you've been through it before, so you know what to do. It's for somebody bringing something brand new to the world like this, because although what's the thing here, poor Frank Mahoney, I was talking about Frank Mahoney and Hypertonics and stuff, but it's movements. I mean, massage, you all use similar sorts of movements. So in the same way that Frank taught us Hypertonics and stuff like that, I just adapted the core releases and things. So it's not my stuff. And this is in the form it's in. It's not Frank's stuff either. We've taken it in a way, made it more accessible to therapists of all, but who never even have to understand kinesiology, don't have to do kinesiology. And because it used to break my heart. I've tried to do this a couple of times before, and it's almost like an idea whose time hadn't come yet. But I very much feel that I think there's something 100,000 masseurs in England or something. The numbers are quite phenomenal.
No, but so essentially, as long as you're trained in some kind of body work, then and what if you're more of a movement teacher? What about Alexander teachers or yoga teachers? What about those?
Yoga teachers, I can't wait to do
well, as long as they're qualified in anatomy, physiology and pathology, I think they will be acceptable. Or, you know, if not, we can do it by interview just to see what their level of knowledge is. You obviously have to be aware of the muscle groups, and it can actually help improve their knowledge, the therapist's knowledge of muscle groups. So that's another plus for doing the course.
A very interesting point of view, just seeing it much more from a group perspective as opposed to more of a individual perspective. By the way, I have just launched the poll, which I sometimes do forget. So if you're watching, can you fill the poll in? That would be really fantastic. I've got another question. In terms of kind of ages, so you've said to us that you could be a little old lady or a little old man practically bent double. And you've also said obviously babies not so, because you can't engage. What's the youngest that you could work with somebody? What kind of age?
As long as they can follow simple instructions like push with your big toe, push with this, push with, and tell me if anything's uncomfortable. You can work with them, but you don't tend to see many kids coming in really. But it's lovely when you do get a chance to work with a child. But if they've got headaches or migraines and things like that, then first on the table with parents' permission, obviously, and try and make sure there's not just a very simple reason for it. So there's no fixed rules, no fixed rules.
How about contraindications? Are there any times when you wouldn't do it, you couldn't do it?
Well, in the same way that I wouldn't let a chimp free on me with a Black & Decker to do brain surgery. I would ask anybody, whatever you are. I mean, there's some cases where I think, oh no, they've got a seriously impinged nerve here, and I could run the risk of paralysing stuff. I just don't take on a case like that. But if as long as you're properly trained and it's not a serious nerval impingement or something like that, that you would refer to a chiropractor or osteopath or somebody else. I think you have to use common sense really, but don't. I very, very clearly say, we've got the manual. Yeah. We've got quite a large training manual, and in there it's very clearly said, don't take on stuff above your pay grade, because I've got a 100% record, and nobody's ever been hurt using GMR, and I want that to remain the case. We need a 100% safety record. Now, if somebody takes this and runs off with it and starts to teach it themselves, and they can't call it gentle muscle release, because I will copyright that name, but I don't want them bringing our profession into disrepute if they don't understand it properly and they start to put it out on the internet and have people going around and injuring other people because they haven't understood one simple basic concept, that you're not doing anything to the client. You know, you know, does that answer that okay?
Yeah, I think so. So in other words, so the manual has got the contraindications. There are some, as you said, maybe that they've just had an operation, so everything is healing, not a good time.
Definitely.
And that's very much in the training, but a lot of it, the avoidance of contraindications is in the way you approach a client to work with them.
And permission, and they've asked to come to see you because their friends got a good result.
Well, and also because they themselves realise that you are facilitating, not doing.
Yeah. That's the core. It's there to, I say, well done, always. Yeah. It's very hard work for the clients as well, because if you think about it, you're going through every muscle group in the body, having to focus and pay attention, and give feedback all the time. But the benefits are fantastic. People just can't believe it. They get off the couch. I think we're going to give, instead of 5 stars, we're going to give 23 wow ratings, because we worked with a therapist not long ago, and she just said, wow, wow, wow. Every time we did something, wow. It's mind-blowing. We were laughing when we were trained. We were laughing the whole way through. We just couldn't believe what was happening.
The difference you actually feel in your body. Yeah.
It's a very different mindset, isn't it? I mean, I think that's the really interesting thing about, I know you've talked about, and I've talked to you before, you said like yin and yang, and this whole thing that you're here and you're doing something and you've got to fit the person. And it's stepping into a very different mind space.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a mind space which which kind of protects you and protects the person at the same time.
That's right. And you're the facilitator.
Yeah.
As opposed to the doer.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, very, I think there are so many people that could benefit in terms of client groups, but also in terms of therapists. I've seen too many therapists who really hurt, wrecked, go around with risk reports. It's really, really sad. Yeah. And then they're stopped from doing what they love.
Yeah.
So I could ask you why now, but I think we've covered that. But why do you think this kind of has never really hit the headlines before now?
Because it was too complicated to teach in any other way than what I've done. I've tried to make it as accessible for people, and I think the time is ripe now. I think our consciousnesses are opening up. We're much more going for. We haven't used the phrase here, yin versus yang. I mean, that's a yang therapy. You're doing stuff. This is yin, where you're allowing the body to do it for itself. And everything I work with is that. Homeopathy is like that. Jin Shin Jitsu is very facilitative. It's not, you're not doing anything. You're just holding areas, energy areas and stuff. It's all about letting the body come into its own wellness, really, I think.
But also, I think people are starting to take a lot more responsibility for their own health.
Yeah.
So they are looking for, you know, other treatments to actually facilitate their well-being. So, this is a great way to do it.
Well, you've also got client education.
Say it again, please.
Client expectation and client education.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Yes, so that's a very, very interesting thing. So I think you Peter, you were mentioning that if anybody wanted, well, people who want to train in it, you decided to do 3 weekends, but you were going to put them quite close together. Sometimes when people are training, it's quite spread out. Now, is there a reason why?
Absolutely.
You decided to structure it that way?
Yeah, because it's about, we have to develop our own muscle memory of how to do it. The only way you do that is practice. So the first weekend happens, and you're encouraged to go away and gently work with other people with non-serious conditions, obviously. And the more you can do it while it's fresh, then you get used to it, you get comfortable about it. It's like riding a bike. The first time you do it, left foot up, right foot up, left, wobble, wobble, wobble. And the idea is you eventually do it without having to think, oh, I'm going to do this. And it's all about stepping into, I think NLP talks about stepping into someone's expertise. And I want everyone to step into their own expertise in the way that it's being taught. Hopefully we'll improve the way we teach it over the years and stuff. But it's all about if you don't do it, if you don't repeat it often enough, you don't get it, and then you give up. You forget it.
There is very much the need for reinforcement. I mean, you know, you go on courses and it's all terribly fresh at the time, but if you don't embed that practice pretty soon and then re-embed it, what you thought you were very confident with and competent with, you do tend to lose confidence with. And I mean, I've seen people sometimes, you know, that they just haven't got the people to practice on, you know, to embed what they've learned. And I suppose what you're doing is taking that need to find immediate guinea pigs to embed out of the equation. Yeah. And I'm just adding two in together, and you are enabling them not to get into bad habits as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Knowing Angela.
So that was, I mean, we sat down and talked about this and how we're going to structure it. And I said, well, look, let's just have 2 weeks between the first 2 weekends. So they have time to practice it, but they also have time to come back with any questions that they might have or difficulties that they've come across. And it's there, it's all fresh in their mind. And then you can repeat it all, go through it all again, and that will embed it, and they won't forget it then. And then the third weekend will be just to go through all their case studies, to have a look at that, and to have a look at some advanced techniques. So we'll add to their toolbox on that third weekend.
And also we're going to, this is going to be revolutionary because on the website, in the back office, for people who are already started the diploma training and stuff like that, we're going to film each move like we did with the hands just now.
Oh, right.
We're going to do each move in little chapters, so you don't have to go through the whole thing. Oh, how do I do the knees? Okay, so we're going to make it so you can, as if you're standing there watching over the shoulder as the instructor does it. And so that, I think, is going to be invaluable, because you don't need to forget. It's just, wasn't there something about the neck? How do I do the neck? Go straight onto the website, it'll be there. But obviously we don't want you to share it with people. If you no. It's not about money, Rosemary. It's not about the money. It's the reason I say
it's about safety.
It's about safety.
Yeah.
If you're, I've said this in the manual, you sign a disclaimer to say, I'm not going to share this with people who haven't been trained in it.
Yeah.
For fear of damaging somebody, is number one. And number two, damaging GMR.
Yeah.
They're not trained properly. It's just, you wouldn't let anybody on the street do an osteopath's job and crick the neck or anything, would you? So
no.
It's exactly the same.
No, and sometimes people are quite. So it's what you're culturing is responsibility.
Absolutely. And I also want trainers. I want people who are as passionate about it as we are, who step forward, because we will do training trainers weekends and things like that, and teach all the advanced techniques we can. And again, these will gradually be built in. We'll have another hidden door for the trainers, so they can see some of the advanced techniques and stuff like that. And we'll so
we're thinking big.
We're thinking big.
I love that. I think it's the only way to be. I think we have to. Maybe it's just a thing about this year. It's having vision and going, this is the vision, and this is what I need to get there. And it's time things changed, really.
Absolutely.
And I think, with a lot of, some of the other schools we've got, it's very much cutting edge approaches, So with that, I'm going to
tell us about the poll. Yeah, hang on.
I have launched the poll. I've launched the poll. Yeah.
That's my last slide. Can you see that?
Yes.
Bugs Bunny's come up, has he?
So, what you will see now is our last slide. So again, if you want to find out a little bit more, I think they've got all classes are running on GMRA or gmracademy.co.uk. You can email Peter direct if you've got any questions. pcksmith@icloud.com, and his phone number is 01872870801. I think I'm right in thinking that you've also got some fairly, for the initial classes this year, you're also offering a really special price as well. And for people who may watch this who aren't members of ThinkTree, again, when you receive this recording link, you will also get a discount code for discounted price for us as well. And with that, I'd really like to say many, many thanks to Peter Smith and Angela Lewis. Everyone who's watching it now, everyone who will watch it in the future, I hope you get a lot out of this, and that together we all manage to improve the well-being of therapists and the public with new ways of doing things. So thank you very much, everyone. We're on again tonight with Ayurveda for the winter. You might like to join us then.
Thanks very much, Rosemary. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.